What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through my Eastern Conference standings predictions. But before we start, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. The 15th seed, I have the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are in year one of their real rebuild and don't have much going for them. This year should be solely a development year for all the young guys like Yegor Denham, Nolan Traore, Drake Powell, Ben Sarov, Danny Wolf, Noah Clowney, Jalen Wilson, Drew Timme, and everybody else. They have some individual good defenders like Haywood Highsmith, Nick Claxton, and Terrence Mann, but it won't be good at all as a team. They do have a solid offense with guys like Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr., but their youth and lack of experience is why they are so low. Not to mention guys like Nick Claxton, Michael Porter Jr., Terrence Mann, and Haywood Highsmith should really be traded at the deadline, making them even worse. Up next, as the 14th seed, I have the Washington Wizards. Just like the Nets, the Wizards are a very young team, but are a little more advanced in their rebuild. This year should also be a year of developing their young core of Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly, Bub Carrington, Kaishawn George, AJ Johnson, Tristan Vukcevic, Will Riley, and Dylan Jones. This season should be filled with a lot more positives for Wizards fans, with a mix of youth and veteran presence of Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum. But there are too many teams in the East who I think will be better. That's why I have the Wizards as the 14th seed. The next team up, as the 13th seed, I have the Toronto Raptors. I really want to put them higher. I really do. After trading for Brandon Ingram at last year's deadline, but there's too many teams that will be better than them. Toronto's offense looks pretty good, but the addition of Ingram to go along with Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, and Grady Dick. But the spacing could be an issue. Their defense is also a question mark. They have some individual good defenders, but I don't know how well they'll work as a team. Who knows how their first round pick, Colin Murray-Boyles, and their first rounder from last year, Jacoby Walter, look. If they look good, I could see a world where they make a playoff push, but I don't think they can rely on them. Moving on to the 12th seed, where I have the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are such a hard team to predict, with all the injuries they've faced over the years. If they can stay healthy, I can definitely see them being the Pistons of last year. They have added a bunch of veterans to the locker room, like Colin Sexton, Spencer Dinwiddie, and even Mason Plumlee, plus Pat Connaughton, and a hopefully full season of Grant Williams. Hopefully Brandon Miller can take a year 3 leap and stay healthy. Even if LaMelo gets hurt again, at least now they've got guys that have proved themselves to replace him, like Colin Sexton and Trey Mann, another player that missed nearly all of last season with a back injury. We'll see what year 2 Tidjane Salaam looks like, and their rookies Con Knipple, Leo McNeely, Sion James, and Ryan Clockbrenner. If injuries weren't such a reoccurrence for this team, I would go all out on a limb and say they'd finish as the 6th seed, but I just can't do that right now. Up next, in the 11th seed, is a team I'm more high on than a lot of people, including their own fans. It's the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have a weird fascination with being incredibly mediocre. They made the play-in tournament last year with pretty much the exact same team. Nikola Vucevic is still on the roster for now. Another year of development for Josh Giddey and Kobe White, and Matas Buzelis will hopefully take another leap in his sophomore year. Isaac Okoro should improve their defense. And who knows, the change of scenery could rejuvenate his offensive game, but it's going to take a little bit more than Okoro to improve their defense. But I think their offense will carry them to this spot. I don't have much faith in Patrick Williams anymore, but who knows, maybe he'll have the breakout year we've all hoped he'd have for a couple years now. We'll also see how Noah Essengay does in his rookie season. The next team up, just clinching the last play-in spot, is the Philadelphia 76ers. Just like the Hornets, the 76ers ranking completely depends on the team's overall health. If they can stay healthy, I can definitely see them being in the 3rd seed. They even have a chance at being a top 2 seed, but I can't be confident with this team at all. Joel Embiid never stays healthy. Paul George had a history of injuries, and even when he was healthy, didn't look great last season. Jared McCain already has an injury, so they've got Tyrese Maxey, Quentin Grimes, and solid role players to defend for themselves. The Sixers have a size and defensive problem, in the starting lineup especially. We'll keep VJ Edgecombe and Quentin Grimes will be fighting for the starting small forward spot, but both Edgecombe and Grimes are only 6'5". If Grimes starts, that leaves a big weakness on the perimeter defensively. Justin Edwards is also a good shout to start, but I'd go with Edgecombe. The Sixers have a deep bench with Grimes or Edgecombe, Kelly Oubre, Justin Edwards, Adem Bona, Andre Drummond, Trenton Watford, Dominic Barlow, and Jabari Walker all could get playing time. Even a guy like Aaron Gordon could play valuable minutes if he's given the opportunity to. Coming in as the 9th seed, I have the Boston Celtics. I could be underestimating the Celtics, and I wouldn't be surprised if they prove me wrong, but with the injury to Jason Tatum and the losses of Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and Luke Kornet, it leaves the Celtics with not much depth at all. They haven't gotten many rotational players to replace the players they lost, other than Anthony Simons, who has lots of weaknesses in his game to go with a lot of strengths too, and Chris Boucher. Luka Garza will probably be in and out of the rotation, but with the lack of big man depth, it's his spot to lose. The Celtics guard and small forward rotation still looks good, with Anthony Simons and Derek White, the starting guards, with Peyton Pritchard and Jordan Walsh off the bench, and Jaylen Brown at the 3, with Sam Hauser as the backup. Unless Jaylen Brown takes another step in his game and averages 30 points or close to it, I can't put them any higher. Coming in at the 8th seed, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are one of the more underrated teams in the league, with the depth they have at the 2 through 5 positions, but their lack of star power at the point guard position especially is why they are so low. A point guard rotation of Kevin Porter Jr. and Cole Anthony is solid, but you need a little bit more than solid, especially when it comes to the league guards to win a championship. Other than Giannis and Miles Turner, the Bucks don't have pretty much anyone who you can rely on to give you 20 points on any given night, other than maybe Bobby Portis, but even that is a stretch. Guys like KPJ and Kyle Kuzma are solid scorers, but nothing special, and do lack consistency. The Bucks' defense on the perimeter is also a massive weakness of theirs. They don't have much tradable players or picks, so this might be the best roster they can get around Giannis. The final play-in team I have as the 7th seed, the Miami Heat. The Heat has improved a lot this offseason, strengthening their offense with the addition of Norman Powell. Powell averaged 21 points last year on 48% from the field and 41% from free, and all they had to give up for him was Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love, who were both in and out of the Heat's rotation to end last season. But the reason I have them so low, because they don't have a ton of depth. They're already dealing with Tyler Hero, who has a foot injury and will be out to start the season. If they face many more injuries, especially to Bam or Norman Powell, while Tyler Hero is out, I can really see them struggling, even with their elite defense. I'm really high on the Heat's defense, but I don't think their offense will be good enough to elevate them to a top 6 spot, especially if Norman Powell struggles to stay consistent or healthy. Moving on to the playoffs, starting with the 6th seed, where I have the Indiana Pacers. Even with the injury to Tyrese Halliburton, I feel like they'll still be in the hunt for the playoffs. If any team has the depth to cover for a star player's injury, it's the Pacers. Although the team isn't as good without Hallie and Miles Turner, the team is filled with exceptional defenders and decent shooters, but the offense may be a little shaky, and that's why I don't have them finishing any higher. I'm expecting a big season for their backcourt of Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin, with bigger opportunities with the absence of Hallie and Turner now gone. Either Isaiah Jackson or Jay Huff will be starting, so there will be a center on the floor that isn't a great scorer outside of lobs, which might leave a burden on Siakam, Nembhard, and Mathurin. I'm expecting a big year out of Jarris Walker with an increased opportunity. He'll be sharing the backup 3 and 4 minutes with Obi Toppin. Johnny Furphy and Ben Shepherd will also be fighting for the backup 2 and 3 spot, with TJ McConnell as the backup point guard. If Aaron Nesmith can play like he did in the playoffs, I could see them being higher, but I just don't think he can replicate that form. Up next, as the 5th seed, I have the Detroit Pistons. I could definitely see them being the 4th seed if the team I have in 4th struggles with injuries, but when both teams are healthy, I think Detroit will be the 5th best team in the East. I wasn't a huge fan of their offseason. I do think they overpaid for Duncan Robinson, paying him around $16 to $17 million a year, when Tim Hardaway Jr., who was on the roster last year, signed with Denver for the minimum. But Duncan Robinson is still an elite 3-point shooter, just a bit inconsistent. He hit his threes on a 39% clip last year, which was pretty good. They also signed Caris LeVert, who at this point in his career isn't the greatest, especially as the backup point guard, which he'll probably play with Detroit's lack of point guards outside of Cade Cunningham. But maybe the change of scenery will rejuvenate his game. We also don't know what's going on with Malik Beasley. I do like Detroit's offense. I think Cade can average close to 30 points per game this season. Ivy, if he stays healthy, can average around 22 points. And Tobias Harris hopefully has another great season. Plus their defense will be phenomenal, with Asar Thompson on the perimeter and Jalen Duren protecting the rim and the starting lineup, with Ron Holland off the bench on the perimeter to go with Caris LeVert and Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed protecting the rim off the bench. Moving on to the 4th seed, where I have the Atlanta Hawks. Like I said before, the Hawks and the Pistons can be interchangeable, but when healthy, I think the Hawks will be a better team. This is easily the best team the Hawks have built around Trae Young since he arrived in Atlanta in 2018. They built such a good defensive team, with Dyson Daniels, who was a top 3 candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year award last season. They traded for Kristaps Porzingis, who's a great rim protector when healthy. They signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's also a terrific defender. And they have Jalen Johnson, Zachary Reese-Hache, and Onyeka Okongwu already on the roster, who are all plus defenders. Not to mention, this should be the best offense they've had in a while. Hopefully Jalen Johnson stays healthy and played as good as he did last year, if not better. Reese-Hache should continue to be a good 3-point shooter and mid-range shooter. The new additions of Porzingis, Alexander Walker, and Luke Kennard are all good shooters, and Onyeka Okongwu has taken leaps offensively every season. It all depends on health, but when they're healthy, I think the Hawks will be a really good team. The next team up, coming in as the third seed, is the Orlando Magic. They're another team that completely depends on injuries. Their stars, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, missed a ton of time with torn obliques. Franz's brother Mo missed majority of last season with a torn ACL and will probably be out to start this season. Jalen Suggs missed a bunch of time, and Jonathan Isaac has a history of bad injuries. Last season, Orlando finished with the 4th worst offensive rating in the league. Only Washington, Charlotte, and Brooklyn were worse offensively, but they did finish with the 2nd best defensive rating. Thankfully, they addressed this issue during the offseason, where they acquired Desmond Bane. It was a pretty hefty price tag, but the Magic should be aiming to make a finals run. They still don't have that pass-first point guard that they desperately needed last year, but they do have Tyus Jones, who's one of the better passers in the league off the bench, to go along with Anthony Black. Even without Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, their defense is still elite, with guys like Jalen Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr., who are both elite defenders in their starting lineup, and Paolo, Franz, and Bane are all fine defensively too, rounding out their starting lineup. And they have Anthony Black, Goga Bitadze, and Jonathan Isaac off the bench, who are all great defenders. Moving on to the 2nd seed, which is another interchangeable one between them and the team I have as the 1st seed, but as the 2nd seed, I have the New York Knicks. The Knicks had a great off-season, where they hired a new coach, Mike Brown, and brought in some much-needed depth, but I'm still not fully convinced of their defense. They have some good individual defenders, like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart in the starting lineup, and Deuce McBride and Mitchell Robinson off the bench, but their rim protection is weak. Karl Anthony Towns is an unfactor on the defensive end, and Mitchell Robinson struggles to stay on the floor, whether it be injuries holding him back, or other teams neutralizing him on the offensive end by sending him to the free throw line. Their new signings of Gershon Yabusele, Jordan Clarkson, and Malcolm Brogdon don't provide much defense, but no doubt their offense will be great. Brunson and Towns were phenomenal last season, and their chemistry should only get better. OG was looking like a real scoring threat from all levels to end last season. The last time Malcolm Brogdon was on a competent team, he won the 6th Man of the Year award and averaged 15 points and 4 assists, and Jordan Clarkson can score from anywhere at any time. I haven't even mentioned guys like Mikal Bridges, Deuce McBride, and Yabusele, and what they can do offensively. It should be a great year for New York, but they just fall short of having the best record in the Eastern Conference. And the last team in this video, as the 1st seed in back-to-back years, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. I may be biased because I'm a Cavs fan, but after what they did last year in the regular season, it's hard to go past them again. They may not win 64 games again this year, but there's no doubt they can win 60. They did get a little bit worse in the offseason after letting Ty Jerome walk for Sam Merrill and trading away Isaac Okoro for a guy that will probably only play about 40% of games. But they do have the depth to cover for those guys, as long as injuries are kept to a minimum. But that's not looking likely, with Darius Garland and Max Strus already set to miss the start of the season. I do worry about the defense on the perimeter. DeAndre Hunter is a good defender, but he favors up against bigger guys rather than shifty guards. It's going to be tough up against guys like SGA, Curry, Brunson, Trae Young, and Kyrie when he gets back, but they had the rim protection to cover for it. I'm expecting a big season from guys like Craig Porter Jr. and even Tyrese Proctor, who should get good opportunities, with the Cavs' first and second choice point guards being injured quite frequently. Now's the time Evan Mobley can really take over as the best player on the roster. And if he can do it, it's going to be really tough to beat this team. That's going to end this video. My Western Conference standings predictions video will come out soon. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know what changes you'd make to my standings.